In the old streets of London, where thick fog enveloped the poor neighborhoods, terror coursed through the veins of the East End residents. A monster lurked in the shadows, prowling the dark alleys, waiting for the perfect moment to strike its victims. This monster was none other than Jack the Ripper, the serial killer whose name became synonymous with fear and horror in late 19th century London. The story began in 1888, at a time when London was a troubled city full of contradictions, where opulence faded next to abject poverty and the East End buzzed with prostitutes, seeking a living amid misery and destitution. Jack the Ripper targeted these women, who had little protection and were easy victims for a man who decided to make them symbols of his terror. In the summer and fall of 1888, the bodies started surfacing. Mary Ann Nichols was the first, found murdered and gruesomely mutilated. Her throat was cut and her abdomen slashed. Within weeks, Annie Chapman met the same fate, followed by Elizabeth Stride and then Catherine Eddowes. Finally, the fifth and most infamous victim, Mary Jane Kelly, was found in a small room, her body so horrifically disfigured that investigators found it hard to describe. London was in a state of panic. Fear swept the streets, and the police were in a race against time to stop this killer who seemed to know every step they took before they made it. Newspapers spoke of the monster of the East End, and the terror reached a fever pitch when anonymous letters began flooding newspaper offices and the police department, all bearing a chilling signature: Jack the Ripper. The killer possessed deep knowledge of human anatomy, and his method of killing suggested he was either a skilled butcher or a doctor who knew precisely how to cut and mutilate without leaving clear evidence. This skill with a knife added to the police's confusion, causing them to question the identity of a murderer who always seemed several steps ahead. As the number of victims increased, so did the pressure on the police, but they operated with primitive means compared to what's available today. There was no forensic technology, no modern methods to analyze evidence. Investigations heavily relied on guessing and scattered testimonies, and as the panic grew, names of suspects piled on investigators' desks without any conclusive evidence linking anyone to the crimes. The case became a source of endless speculation. Historians and amateur sleuths penned hundreds of books and articles, all attempting to solve the mystery of Jack the Ripper. Yet, with every new theory, the enigma deepened, until it seemed Jack the Ripper had taken his secret to the grave.